Okay, today we're going to go over replacing the spur gear on the 1/10 scale Gravedigger. Now, how you have an idea whether or not you have a spur gear problem is if you try to go, you hear this horrible sound. And it also drives animals crazy. Alright, I went ahead and took the body off. Now I'm going to explain, first of all, I am not an RC guy. This will be one of my first projects that I've done. I bought this for my son completely stock from an RC shop and have never really done a whole lot to it since. Replaced some body clips, simple things like that. I did pick myself up from Amazon a toolkit right here, so I've got a bunch of drivers and nut drivers and whatnot, and that's what I'm going to be using. So first thing we have to do, back here is where your spur gear is going to be covered in this compartment right here. So we're going to have to first take off this kind of wheelie bar in the back. Not a true wheelie bar, but keeps the gearbox from getting all ground up when you're doing wheelies and whatnot using it. So I'll go ahead and put this down. It takes normal screw Phillips head right here on the side. Also, you've got another one on the side over here. Okay, when you go ahead and you have all the screws out there was also one right down here on the bottom that I didn't notice in the beginning. So once again, when you have all those taken out, you can go ahead and just slide that bumper off. I set it to the side, put all the screws with it. Then we're back over here to the cover. Now, in order to get to the different screws on here, I think it's going to be easier to take this rear right side tire off. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. So you just have one nut right in the hub right there. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. That's off. We'll go ahead and pull the tire off. Set that off to the side, put the nut in it, and now we've got ourselves to the cover. I see a screw right there. See one screw here. If I go over to this side, I don't see anything. So I'll go ahead and just try taking off those two screws and see where we're at. Now I have the cover off. You can see the spur gear, the large gear right there. You'll also see a small metal one to the side. You got the spur gear here, then you have what's called the pinion gear right there. And in order to decide what kind of part you need in order to order, you'll see stamped into the spur gear is the pitch and tooth count. For this one here, which is a stock Gravedigger 1/10 scale, it's a 48 pitch 90 tooth wheel. Now I tried to do some reading up on the different spur gear pinion combinations, and apparently it just changes torque for better power, less top speed, things like that. I don't imagine ever doing anything other than stock. So what we actually have here holding on the spur gear is a nut in the top, and followed by 3, looks like hex nuts, and I will get to trying to take them off. So that wasn't that hard to get off. All I had to do was take off the nut and spring that were in the center there, and these 3 right here actually holds on part of what they call the slipper clutch, which from what I understand allows a little bit of movement to occur when you're under speed to avoid destroying this gear. So that actually holds on these padded thing here in the back, and that was pretty simple. But in order to go ahead and add the new part, I'm clearly going to have to take off that part of the slipper clutch and add it to the new spur gear. I got all these parts. I actually picked up this here spur gear and an extra pinion gear just to be safe off of Amazon. I believe the seller was Dynamite. Came in a day, prime. Must have been local, but cheap, a couple bucks. I think I spent maybe less than 15 bucks for both of them combined. I bought a few extra parts just because, so I'm not really sure the exact cost, but really nothing all that expensive. Doesn't break the bank. So let me go ahead and take this spur gear apart, the old one, and put on the new one. I'm going to take the other one out of the package and see if I can compare where mine is at and what the new one looks like. I don't know if I can even get a really good view of this. I don't know if it's quite going to zoom in, but on the right you can kind of see just how ground up the spur gear on the right is. Now the pinion gear is made of metal, so I'm doubting that that has a whole lot of wear to it at all. But the spur gear is just made out of a nylon plastic, so you can, the tops of it really tend to get shaved off a bit and starts to slip, so hence our problem. So I got this piece out. Also happen to notice that there's a small bearing that you're gonna have to take out also. What I did was just took my driver, ran it right through the hole, and it just popped it really easy. Wasn't a big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount this plate with the hex screws and the bearing back into it, and we'll catch up there. Okay, I went ahead, put the new spur gear on. All I did was slide it right onto it. There really wasn't a whole lot of things to figure out. Now when you put the that slipper clutch plate on the back with the hex screws, it actually has a bit covering where the bearing goes. So you just go ahead and push the bearing in as far as you can and you're pretty much done. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cover back on and get this also wheel back on, and I'll probably avoid putting that gearbox cover on until I figure out whether or not this fixed the problem. Okay, and here we are to see if it works. And we're back in business. So there you have it. Not too bad of a fix. One thing I did notice when I had the gear cover off, before I put that back on, obviously I had to put the spring and nut back on for the slipper clutch. I tightened that all the way until it wouldn't turn anymore, and then I backed it off 1/4 turn. That's approximately the same distance it was when I started all this. I made sure I kind of checked it before I took it off. I tightened it all the way and saw just how far the turn was. So don't forget to do that. Last thing, also I noticed my motor mount inside this box had just come loose just a little bit, and that might have aided in getting some distance away from the spur gear and causing it to grind off a little bit. So I went ahead and moved that back in to where it should be and tightened down the motor mount. You'll find there's a top motor mount and a bottom motor mount with a washer and a Phillips screw right in here. Nothing all that crazy. So that was easy also. So there you have it. Once again, this particular spur gear was to replace the stock one that came with it, part number 4690. Got that off of Amazon. Got this nice toolkit off of Amazon. It was very helpful, 11-piece screw and nut driver set, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.